record. There you go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Candy with Local Tbilisi, and with me today is Ray Berry. Ray and I met virtually during this whole COVID crisis, but we have mutual friends through a travel program called Remote Year. We were both members of Remote Year, different programs, different times, different itineraries, but we are both part of that community there. And I reached out and looking for speakers and looking for somebody to share some knowledge with us. And Ray stepped up. So welcome, Ray. Super excited to have you here. Ray actually published a book called Golden Boy. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about that back in July of last year. And so we're super excited to have his knowledge and experience on self-publishing and how to go about that. And before Ray starts, I'm going to make you introduce yourself last, Ray. Isn't that nice of me? I'm going to go around the room, around the room, and have everybody introduce themselves. Tell us where you're from, where you're at, whatever you want to tell us as far as that goes, and why you are here, why this topic is of interest to you. So, do I have a volunteer to go first?
I'll go first.
All right, thanks, Marley.
Hey everybody, I'm Marley. I am from the US, but currently residing in Tbilisi, Georgia. I'm here just to see what the process is and what you went through, Ray. I don't really have any thoughts on writing a book or anything that I would self-publish, but just more to see kind of what it's all about.
Right. Carolina?
Sorry, technology. Hi, I'm Carolina. I'm also residing in Georgia currently. I'm originally from Poland. And I'm here because I'm interested in self-publishing. I actually have a manuscript written, 300 pages of it.
Wow.
Just needs a bit of editing, and then I would like to figure out what to do with it and what is the best way, to handle it.
Is that another project I can hold you accountable for, Carolina?
Yes, I mean, I defended this project already I would like to publish my dissertation. It's just that I would like to publish it as something readable, accessible to regular people rather than another unnecessary academic book that will be read by 4 people.
Right.
Which is what's happening in my field.
Carolina is our resident expert on Mongolia and the Silk Road. So if you ever wanted to travel to Mongolia or the Silk Road, get in touch with Carolina.
Thank you, Candy.
Of course. Ashley.
Hi, I'm originally from New Hampshire, Boston area, currently in Vermont. I'm here to support Ray for sure, but I've been thinking about writing a book. A couple of my friends that I've confided in have said, Ash, you should really write a book. So I've started to jot some ideas down. I also have clients who have gone through or are looking to go through. They're trying to decide between self-publishing and not. So I feel like the content for today will be helpful for me to communicate to them.
Awesome.
All right, Ray, the floor
Yes.
is yours.
Let's get into it. Okay, awesome. So first of all, thank you for having me and thank you for introducing yourselves. It's great to meet you guys and for Ashley to see you again because we haven't seen each other in maybe 2 or 3 years now. So that's awesome that that you can join me here. But I shall share my screen and hopefully, all things permitted, it will run smoothly. So, okay. Just putting up my notes. Okay, can you guys see the pathway to publication as a title screen right now? Is that what's covering? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so this is basically, it's my journey to publishing, and it's also an interactive workshop to help you get there as well. So it covers a lot of different stages on the publishing journey, and I really do want it to be an interactive thing. So please do like jump in with questions. Anything more general we can discuss at the end. That will end on a Q&A, especially to do with Golden Boy. But yeah, feel free. I mean, we're a small group, so we won't distract too much from the time, which is good. So yeah, jump in whenever you have questions. This workshop is broken down into chapters, and a lot of these chapters at the beginning are setting your mind up to even begin writing, preparing you for the best tools, where you're writing from, that sort of thing. And then in the second half of the workshop, we go through some of the more technical things towards publishing. And I'll also, what I'll do is I'll lead each of these chapters with information from my own experience. And then after that, I will open the floor out to you guys so you can start responding to stuff as well. I have also put a little pencil in the corners of some of these screens, just because I want you to take notes and to come away with something at the end of this. So something for you to reflect on by the time we finish this up. So as we mentioned, my name's Ray. I published a book called Golden Boy back in July 2019. Feels like a lifetime ago now, and that has just whizzed by. And I've already got to know you guys. I know where you're at. Some of you are hoping to publish, some of you are hoping to start writing, and others you just want to know how it works. So that's really cool to know. A little bit of background on myself. I was born and raised in East London. Flew through primary and secondary school. I studied English literature. I studied film. I studied, theatre at college. And then I went to university down in Falmouth University, where I studied English literature and creative writing and did a master's in professional business writing. So 4 years of studies. And during my time at Falmouth University, it's actually where I discovered I was dyslexic. It tends to run really heavily in creative minds, and Falmouth University had a really great support scheme in place for people with dyslexia. So when I found out I was dyslexic, I understood suddenly so much about why I struggled in certain areas. And it also just made me want to work harder to write a book and to finish it and say, hey, yeah, I conquered that kind of thing. So yeah, after university, I moved back to London. I went into social media marketing. I love social media marketing. I despise the first company I was with. It taught me everything that I don't want in management, and I was really unhappy in London. So I thought, and it's actually a chapter that we'll go through, but I wanted to chase my happiness, and I moved to Barcelona and have been there for the last 5 years. However, now I'm obviously back in the UK for quarantine, so spending a couple of months with my family, which has been really nice. So yeah, on to Golden Boy. I actually started writing Golden Boy at university as a short story. It was a part of a project. I have the book here, published. So yes, it started as a short story and was basically taken from a saying, you have a heart of gold. And I put that into real life and said, what would happen if someone was born with a heart of gold? Obviously they wouldn't survive, but the thought is there that they were such a good person. So Golden Boy covers the life of a woman called Barbara, who has a stillbirth and writes a series of letters to her son, overcoming her loss. And during that time, she develops a very questionable relationship with another child in the town that she lives in. So it's a psychological thriller written from a woman's perspective that has been through such a tragic loss. And I clearly don't have any experience doing that myself, but the story wrote itself and was very character driven. So I started at university and I completed it one summer in Barcelona. full time. I went writing. I was writing for about 6 hours a day, 5 days, 6 days a week. So it was an extremely intense process, you know, spending 6 hours a day in the mind of a woman that has lost a child. I was writing through tears sometimes. I was writing through a lot of emotions, and I felt like I was going through it myself. So but it's finished now, and I've just noticed that the chat is up as well. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So yeah, as I said, I self-published about 9 months ago. And I hope that my own experiences can help to guide you guys in what you mentioned today. So our first, let me make sure that's, yes, okay. Our first chapter, here we go. Awesome. So our first chapter is where are we coming from? And the reason I put this in here is because a lot of my writing and a lot of our writing comes from our deep past, our childhood memories. These are the memories that we really hold on to. These are the memories that are most vivid for us, whether they are brilliant memories, whether they are super sad memories, they're still very, very vivid, and they're often escalated by our emotions and our imaginations. So I've kind of covered where I was born and raised, and I want us to discuss now and think about now, where are we coming from? Where are we writing from? What has happened in our past that helps to create a better writer within us? So for me, friends and family, you know, I have a really close family, mother, dad, and they're still together today. And I have a younger sister called Grace, whose name I have tattooed on my ankle. So you can imagine we're all pretty close. School for me was horrible until about the age of 16. I was bullied. I didn't fit in. I was torn between sports and drama, and you had to make one of those selections. You couldn't do it both. Until I got to sixth form, which is for us 16 to 18-year-olds. There I started to find my feet. I started to really settle in as well. And after that, university, I had the time of my life, and I really discovered who I was. After school, I took a gap year and I traveled Uganda, lived in Uganda for about 7 months, 8 months, and traveled a lot of East Africa. And that, I would say, is when I really defined who I was as a person at that age. You know, we are constantly redefining ourselves and redefining who we are and what we stand for and what we enjoy. But that really set me up as to say, yeah, this is who I am. So with that being said, I want us to think about our own birthplace and where we grew up and our friends and family that really stood out for you. I'm not sure if you have like a particular family member or maybe a school teacher, but I end up writing these characters into my books so often, whether it's a trait, whether it's a look, whether it's a particular characterism, but they come through a lot in my writing. And that's one thing that I want us to focus on is these core characters of our lives that help shape who we are today. So I've also peppered this presentation with a couple of quotes that I think all of them I wrote, but it's things that I've thought about to inspire me at this stage. And when we're looking back on our childhood and that moment where we're defining who we are as a person, it's so important that we're thankful for everything, because no matter what you went through, no matter the pains, the trauma that you went through, it's helped you to be who you are today, and you'll see that in your writing. Next up is mapping the path ahead, and my path was entirely unique to me. I obviously studied down at Falmouth University, and I was so determined to publish. I had been writing poems and short stories for as long as I could write. I am actually clearing out the attic at the moment in my family home. I'm finding some really, really old stories from when I was like 8, 9 years old. And, you know, it's never...
I'm going to interrupt you. Do we get to see those published at some point?
I've kept them all. Maybe. I mean, we'll see. Some of them I think are best not published, but there's a few gems in there. And actually there's a few ideas in there that I have still built on or been obsessed with, and you see it coming out in my writing now.
That's interesting.
But yeah, like as I said, like London wasn't for me, and so I started to look at everything ahead of me that I wanted to change. Falmouth is down by the coast. You know, I was by the ocean. I was so inspired. It was such a creative place. And coming back to London, just being in that rat race, I had to change. And I fled to Barcelona very quickly, and it helped me to get to a better, healthier headspace to be able to write. So this is our first kind of interactive slide of this presentation. But with all of that being said, how would you map your path ahead? So what makes you happy? When or where are you most creative? What's stopping you from getting there? And what else do you need to take? What actions do you need to take to get there? So at this point, I think I'd like to open the floor up. I've done a lot of talking just with introductions, but I'd love to get some people's jump in on what makes you happy. What do you need to be creative?
Well, I'm not creative at all. So I can tell you what makes me happy.
Yeah, go for it.
What makes me happy is a quaint little coffee shop, sitting on the sidewalk outside and being surrounded by life and activity around me. I know that I've learned that I tend to be much happier in smaller cities than larger cities. So that brings me happiness. And but occasionally then I am completely the opposite. Occasionally there's that completely remote, completely off the grid, sitting on a hill, looking at the sunset that would make me happy. So I don't know that defining that into one space is super easy for me.
Yeah. Ashley, what about you? When are you at your most creative?
Yeah, and this is funny because these questions are actually also super helpful in other areas of our lives, right? Like I'm trying to find a place to live where I can call home for a while so that I do have a space that is conducive to me where I can write and be creative and even be creative for my business, right? So for me, I need to be near the mountains or the ocean. I do tend to like smaller cities where it's accessible. I can go to a coffee shop, but those remote opportunities are really important as well. Having like a clean and tranquil and simple lifestyle that's more minimalist, all of those are definitely conducive to an environment where I can be creative. I don't think anything's stopping me from getting there. I just need to do some more research.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, also, guys, if you ever want to jump in, just use the hand to raise your hand or come off mute and stop me. I don't mind. But this is one thing that I really want to press on here is we're at our most creative when we are happiest. So do not plan your path alongside anyone else. Plan it alongside what makes you happy. And if someone else wants to join that journey, fantastic, let them join it. But this decision has to be yours if you really want to know that where you're going is your happiest place. So next up is preparing for the journey. And this is a huge one, and one that determines how you start your path to success and your start your path to publishing. big things I needed when I was writing and preparing for my journey were the right tools. So I needed a laptop that had an epic battery life. I needed no worries. I needed an education. So I finished university. The amount of times I thought, you know what, I don't want to go into the system. I don't want to study. I don't want to go down this route. So I stepped away from university. I needed to give myself time. I needed a great supportive community, and I needed money. And this is often like the biggest struggle for a new writer, is having time to write, but also having the finances to give yourself time to write. And that's one thing that I really, really struggled with, was I had to work a full-time job. And then I still had to write on top of that. And sometimes when you finish your working day, you just want to close your laptop and walk away from it. So I was lucky in the sense that it actually came through tragedy. I got let go from work and I got a redundancy package. And that's what enabled me to give me time. I had 6 months to write, and I lived off of that redundancy package. And it was money that, you know, I would never get such a lump sum of money. And I just thought, you know, when else am I going to get this lump sum of money that I could live for this amount of time that I'll be able to write? So I just said, Ray, invest in yourself, give yourself time, and finish this book. And that's what I did. So preparing for your journey, think about, what do you need to make room for in your life to be productive? What items or things or even thoughts do you need to take forward in your process? I don't know if anyone wants to jump in of things that they know that they need to be able to write.
I agree that getting fired is something that would definitely help me.
Exactly.
Yeah, like genuinely work is taking so much out of people's life.
Yeah.
Like, and we aren't normally aware of that because we just keep working. For me, this quarantine was actually a wake-up call, because now I see how much time I spend at work, often doing nothing, because I'm much more efficient at home and much more happier working from home, where I can switch between the tasks. But yeah, like I can see how not having work and worry about money for 6 months could give a boost to anyone who wants to write a book.
Yeah. And I mean, that's such a rare, you know, I could have seen it as such a tragic thing, but that's actually such a rare opportunity for anyone to get that I just had to capitalize on it. Now I'm writing my second book, and I'm writing that alongside a full-time job and freelance work. So now I have that struggle, but this is actually something we'll get into, is routine and making time to write. But yeah, definitely. And this is a huge thing that I kind of I was visualizing before I started writing, was packing my metaphorical bag for all the tools and resources. And, you know, I would lay up this table and I would have my glass of water, I would have my fresh fruit, I would have my laptop, and I think, yes, this is everything I need to write. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes your head's just not in the right place. And so it's the best thing that you can do is setting up a routine in the mornings to get a headspace going so that you're able to write. And so preparation, as much as it is physical and giving yourself tools and resources and money and things like that, it's also a mental mindset that you need to create. And at this point, you know, being let go from my work, having such a huge, taking such a huge jump, I was so scared. And I was so scared that it wouldn't work. I was so scared that I wouldn't publish, that I wouldn't even finish the book. And I was terrified because I'd started telling people that's what I was doing. So the biggest thing is, like, yes, you need accountability partners, and you need people to be able to tell you, you're on the right track, keep going, Ray, keep going. But it's also such a terrifying thing. The more people you tell, the more people encourage you and more people know about it. But fear is a good thing, and you know, it just pushed me to work harder and to finish this book and to finish this project. So starting the climb, a couple of you are in different positions. Some of you have a manuscript and you want to publish. Other people are looking at writing. So there are different areas of the climb. And for me, this is about creating a routine and things that we were talking about. And for me, my routine was gymming, like going to the gym and working out. For me, it was an early bedtime, not staying up until 1, 2, 3 in the morning, fretting about, oh, I haven't written anything today. It was a healthy belly and a full belly. I'm happy and content when I'm full and filled with food. It was also about shutting myself off and having my own space. I know that's super hard to do in quarantine, especially if you're quarantining with friends and family, but it's so hard to be creative when you have people that you're living with whizzing in and out of your lives. And for me, it was just about like blocking off chunks of time to say, this is your writing time, Ray. Your phone is going away. Your notifications are going off. This is when you're going to write. Other things that inspired me, one was slow travel. As I'm sure Candy can back me up on that as well, is with Remote Year, we were traveling 1 city per month. And for as much as I enjoy weekend trips, and you think, oh, I'm going to be in this fantastically creative space, I'm going to be inspired by these new surroundings, you're running from apartment to hotel to dinner, and you don't actually get the time to sit back and be creative. So slow travel for me on Remote Year, spending a whole month in a city, I could find my routine, and then I could spend a whole day in the apartment and not feel bad about it because I had missed the city and I was just able to write, which was awesome. Other things for me were getting off of a laptop and onto paper. It really gives your eyes a break. I printed off a lot of my work. I made edits by hand on a lot of my old manuscripts because it just breaks up your eyes. And they become so tired looking at a screen all the time. And also while I was working, and when I am working full time, the last thing I want to do is look at a screen for any longer. So print your work off, no matter where in the journey you are, read it, write it, add to it in little paragraphs and margins and things like that. It really helped me to write. Other things, a few more things that inspired me were playlists on Spotify. For as much and as well labeled as they are, not all of them do what they say they are going to do. Music for concentration would just send me to sleep. You know, I listen to opera music and think, oh, I'm going to be inspired. And it was not inspiring. I just would end up dozing off. So find those playlists that work best for you. Right now, my playlist is Your Morning Coffee, I think it's called. And it's fantastic. And I write to it all the time. And this music and these songs are like triggers in my head now that are like, Ray, this is your creative stuff. Go. So I kind of use it as like nurturing my own mind to be able to write. Also having a workplace set up, so having that kind of routine and things that you want on your table around you. And I did drink a few glasses of wine along the way as well. And I am not going to shy away from saying a glass of wine definitely helped me find my creativity in times of need. So don't be afraid to venture to that boat as well. So yeah, here I want you to think about things that inspire you. What helps you to fill an empty page, and what do you need in your life to be productive? And yeah, I would love for anyone to jump in here and say a few things that they really need around them to be productive.
I can jump in and tell you, but I feel like, Carolina, do you want to share with us?
Well, you know, you can always count on me
I
in
know.
regards to copying.
I love hearing your thoughts.
No, I was just thinking about this because those needs are changing. like, you know, at the different periods of my life, when I was writing different things, I needed different environment. I remember that just after leaving my parents' home, when I was working on my bachelor degree, I needed noise. I couldn't work in quiet places because that's not what I was used to have at home. So I was on purpose looking for busy places where people were talking all the time, chatting, moving things around. Then later I switched to libraries and looking for areas where nobody was there. I don't think for me it matters that much, like the environment matters that much. If I'm in the zone, then I'm in the zone. And I write regularly. I absolutely agree about the routine. Like, routine has been the key for me for years.
Yeah.
I write daily. I no matter what's happening, I try to write at least half of the page per day.
Awesome.
And once you get to that, like, it doesn't matter that much where you are. Well, obviously, unless you have construction work going on behind your window, then that's different. But otherwise, you know, if you're used to writing, then it works the same way as checking your phone. You do that, and
it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
So I blog, and I've blogged for years, personal blog. It's not anything that would ever be published, like, for that or anything. But I find that the places that I am more inspired to write my blog are probably the same places that I just told you earlier are my happy places. Sitting in a cafe with activity around me, or sitting and watching, you know, nature from the top of a hill somewhere, or those kinds of places are probably the same for me. So for me, there's a lot of intersection in that. I like to work that way as well.
Yeah, I think that if you set yourself up with enough kind of regular routines and regular things around you. So, for example, you said you like those busy cafes and those cute cafes, and it is a trigger in your head to say you're at your creative point now. You know, you've got that playlist going, you've got your coffee, you can write now, and it's these other things around you that can say, yes, you can do this, rather than just trying to jump in, not in these kind of environments or with these things around you. Okay, we'll jump into our next chapter. Life does not always go as we plan it to. So no matter how cemented our plans are or how much we surround ourselves with tools to stay on track, we have to be prepared to reroute. Enter COVID, yes. In my years of writing Golden Boy, I was evicted from my home. I lost 2 jobs. I had my heart broken in a relationship, and I lost 3 grandparents. These are things you cannot possibly prepare for at all. And they definitely rerouted me. And although they rerouted me, they didn't stop me from moving forwards. They just sent me down a different path. I think, actually, yeah. So with that being said, don't be as afraid to stray off your path. Like, if COVID has completely thrown a spanner into the works, don't let that stop the works. Just work around it. And I was writing through such a roller coaster of emotions, and like I'd gone through so many like physical and emotional losses during that time of writing Golden Boy, and I didn't let that stop me from writing. I just wrote differently. And then I was able to go back and, you know, I saw some parts where I knew what I was going through mentally was like coming through way too strong on the page, and I would edit that down, but I still had the page down in the first place. So no matter what happens to you in your physical world, don't let that stop you, just let that reroute you. And chapter 6 is who you find along the way. And this is focused on community and, you know, having connections with remote year, having connections with co-working spaces. I know you guys are already in a place of valuing community and the people that you have around you. And this is my remote year community. So these guys, this is going back to day 1 of remote year. I actually used to work for remote year, and then I was put onto a program to help get content. But this was my travel group for 4 months of 2018, I think, towards the end of 2018. And we didn't know a thing about each other. I didn't know a thing about any of these people. And these are the people that helped me along the way to publish. I had no clue what part of my life these people would play. But highlighted and from left to right, the woman sitting on the far left was my first ever reader of Golden Boy. There's me next to her, and we didn't talk then. We had no clue who each other were. Then above me, you have travel influencers that I've appeared on their blog and I've appeared in their stories for. Just in between them, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Can you see my cursor on the screen or no?
Yes,
yeah.
You can see it.
Okay, so this is Carolina. She's my front cover designer. Again, I had no clue she was a designer back then. Moving over, this is Dwight. I now live with Dwight in Barcelona. There's 3 of us that live together in Barcelona, and me and Dwight met on remote year and now such amazing friends. This is Arielle. She actually worked for Buzzfeed and reviewed my book on behalf of Buzzfeed and is on the back cover of Golden Boy. All absolutely huge players in my life and my pathway to publishing. And this woman on the far right is Jen, who was our program leader. And she's there because she's my yes friend. She's just one of those friends that just say yes to everything and inspire you to be your best self. And just, you know, whenever I was with her, I was on such a high. We would just ride such a wave together. And I think it's so important to have those people in your life and identify who those people are. And I just call them yes friends, and she's one of them for life. But yeah, going back from a bunch of faces that I had no clue about, and now they were such vital players in my publishing journey. And that you never know who you are going to rely on or who is going to help you out. But your community are 100% your strongest allies. So now we're getting more into the technical side of things. So Carolina, I think this would be great for you. But the next point is getting social. Obviously, I work in social media, so I understand the importance of social media, and I would like to say I know how to use it. But share your journey with your community. And we did touch on this earlier about it being, the more you share, the more fear you build, but also the stronger it makes you and the more determined it makes you to succeed. But they'll appreciate it all. And your community doesn't have to be those people you see every day. It can be those people from back home as well. It can be a digital community. And I think COVID has proved that to us more than ever. Okay, this chapter 7, before we get into like the real nitty-gritty details of actually self-publishing, is peaking, publishing, and peaking again. When you are writing, you will go through so many peaks where you think you have finished a marathon, and you'll be like, great, I'm done. You're not done. There's another marathon to run, and you just go up and down, and it is not over when you publish, believe me. These are my peaks and like celebrations so far. Finishing my manuscript I remember, and I don't know, Carolina, if you feel like you've finished it or you feel like you still have a long way to go, but finishing that manuscript and putting it on a table. I was in New York. I put it on this table and I was just pacing the room, freaking out. Like, I'd been working on this for years and suddenly it was done. And I just thought, oh my, like, now what? I hadn't planned past finishing a manuscript. I had no clue what to do next, but I'd done the manuscript. And then it went through editing, and submitting my final one was another peak. Having my first call with my publisher was a huge peak. And I remember my publisher read the book and she called me up and she said, oh my God, this has to be a movie. And I just cried, because to get someone's approval from the industry is just such a huge, gratifying thing. So yeah, that was a huge peak for me, but then that also opened up another marathon to run. I mean, getting my cover designed, submitting my book for print, having my first book arrive in the post, which actually is here. So yeah, like, I must have gone through about 4 variations of the actual book as to where it is now. You can see like the different in thickness, because we did different page thickness, we did different page colors, different off-whites, different textures of the cover. There's so much that you have to work on. But getting that first print book was such a big thing for me. Getting my first review on Amazon, getting my first Amazon report. And now I'm setting up my book for Kindle. So I'm just starting another half marathon, I would say. I have a lot done, but it takes a lot of work. And everyone's path is completely different and it goes different ways. I mean, I got help from a publisher, but I largely did most of the work myself. And this is something that we can expand on more in the Q&A, but you know, you have to make the right decision that feels best with you. And maybe you're supposed to have a publisher, maybe you're not. There's nothing wrong with self-publishing. And my next book, I'm going to self-publish because I feel like I know what there is to know about publishing now. I know about the legal side of publishing, and I can go and publish a book now and receive more for it, and you know, be more responsible for it having self-published. So yeah, I'm gonna share my techniques from my personal pathway to publishing, like the technical side of things, but everyone's is different. So first up, going back to social media, we're all storytellers, and this is an insight into my story. And no matter how many different types of media come about, the point will always ring true. People love stories. We are writers. People, we love stories. And what I want to get across here is to tell micro stories every day. And this doesn't even need to be a social media post. It can be a WhatsApp message to a friend. But give a snippet into your life to either a large community or a tiny community or a community of one. But it enables people to support you, and it also enables people to get ready for you and what you have to come. So tell these stories, get people on board, and get people onto your journey as well. Next up is getting organized. So I blocked out surnames because obviously I don't want everyone's surnames going around. But this is a very, very, very basic Excel sheet. And this is the information that I put together to track who had told me they brought the book, who had told me they read the book, who'd reviewed the book, who'd finished it, if they had taken a photo of it. And you know, this list has grown since then. But you get an idea of how you can't just publish a book and think it's going to sell. You have to really follow up with things. And I haven't done any marketing outside of my own community, really, outside of my own social media posts and speaking to friends. And I will start marketing when I have the ebook. But until then, you need reviews in, and you need people to read your book. And actually, some of these readers have turned into sales of like 10 to 15 books within their own communities. Like, for example, my mum has book clubs, and she's read the book, has entered this book into book clubs, and now all of her friends are reading the book. And I have this huge community of mums around my mum that has read and reviewed the book, and I don't even know them. And it's so incredible to see. So really try and keep track of who's bought the book and who said they're going to buy the book, who is showing any interest in the book, and follow up with them. Ask them how they got on with it, ask them if they have any photos of it, and ask them to review it. Because when I start marketing this book, I don't want to be sending people to an empty Amazon page with 0 reviews, because I don't have a name for myself as an author right now. So I need to be able to rely on other people's reviews to tell people that this is a good book. I can't keep screaming about it. I need other people to do that for me. So really stay organized with who's got that book in their hands, and really follow up with them as well. Yeah, and these are some of the reviews from Amazon. There is nothing stronger than word of mouth. I think now I have like 23 reviews on Amazon, and my aim was to get to 30 before I start marketing. The thing is, people read at different paces, and I have friends that have finished the book in a day, and I have friends that have taken months to read it. And I'm like, how are you still reading this book? Like, please finish it. I need reviews. But once you start getting those reviews through the door, you start seeing people buying your book that you don't know who they are, and it is just an absurd feeling because they've read reviews. The next huge thing that we need to bring into account is social media and marketing in general. And I did all of this kind of stuff that you can see before you was around the original launch of my book. I will do another push within a greater community once I've got the ebook out there. But I mean, here you can see Arielle from Buzzfeed. She featured my book on her story, and I think she had or has around 200,000 followers. I've appeared in blogs. I've appeared on my own corporate company site. I did a guest post. I work in marketing, and I write the blogs for my corporate job. So I just wrote one from me for once, and I threaded my book into it. I also appeared in podcasts, and I'm a freelance writer for, I do SEO writing for businesses. And so in my bio, in every single bio that I have out there, I probably have about 50 blogs live. There's a link to Golden Boy alongside my name. So it's about building backlinks. It's about reaching new audiences and doing it in every single avenue that you can possibly think of. Can you still see my screen? Okay, cool. And lastly, on community, there is absolutely nothing wrong with asking for help. People want to help you. You just have to tell them how. So be direct with people, stay polite, of course, but make it easy for them to help you. When I did this soft launch of my book, I asked my friends and family to please share this post, please comment on this post, please speak to your friends about it. And like, it was crazy the amount of support I got. And this is on Instagram alone, and people buying the book from all over the world. And I still get emotional just seeing, you know, some of these faces. I'm seeing my book in other people's hands. But the amount of support was insane. But people won't support you if you don't ask them. Give them prompts, make it easier for them to support you, and they will. So yeah, I think that was closing it. I'd like to go into questions and talk about, we can talk about anything really. The technical side of publishing, how you're setting up a mindset to be able to write in the first place. I have now been through it all. I mean, since it's been 9-10 months, and yeah, I feel like I'm in a position where I have a pretty good knowledge of the publishing world, and I'm now writing my second book, and I'm gearing up to publish that as well. So yeah.
Ray, I have a question. In the process of actually publishing, not the writing part of it, but the actual publishing part, I know there's probably a lot of steps involved there, from finding a publisher to actually, doing edits and all that other stuff. What was the biggest surprise? Was there something that you went, man, I never thought that would be required, or that would happen, or that, was there something that stands out as being
one huge thing that really shocked me was that I needed an interior design, and I needed an interior book designer to do the layout of my book. I was like, why don't you mean you can't just copy paste it, into book format? And they were like, no, you have to design it, and there's so much work that goes into the interior design of a book, in terms of like formatting it so you don't have so many run-on words, like broken up words onto new lines, so that the formatting looks right. The numbers are on every page. I just completely overlooked that as a step. So when my publisher said, oh yeah, we need to get an interior book designer, blah, 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 I said, what? I had no clue about this. So that was a big thing. I guess the design as a whole, the amount of changes that went to get from this book to this book, there's so much in terms of like thickness, in terms of style, covering, color coding. The whole design of a book is another huge step in itself. And I think that was a big shock to me, because I thought it went from manuscript to publishing.
What was that time frame? Like from the first book to getting that final?
I think I finished the book, I think it was probably around, let's see, I was doing the cover design on remote year, and I published in July. It actually went live in March, but I did test buys from Amazon. This is the other thing, because you want to make sure it all runs smoothly before you announce it to the world. So I was doing test buys, and I almost didn't believe it myself every time it came through and it was correct. So I think I bought like 4 copies of my book before I announced it to anyone that it was on Amazon, because I wanted to make sure they were getting the correct version of the book, and it would arrive on time and all of this stuff. So I think that process was probably about 6 months worth of, from a final edited manuscript, this is not including editing, but from a finished manuscript, probably about 6 months to it being live.
Ray,
long process. Yeah.
What did you learn about yourself through this process?
I 100% want to be a writer. Like 100, 1000%. I was like, I'm in the right place. And actually now it is incredible to have my friends, or have people that I don't know, read the book and reach out to me and say, I just finished Golden Boy. What the heck? Like, can we talk? And I said, yeah, of course. And it's crazy for these people to be able to have such easy access to an author, first of all. But then it's also crazier to think that I'm an author. I'm like, what? You've read my work and now you want to talk about it? But it just affirms for me that I'm in the right place. And that this is what I want to do. I want to be a writer. And publishing that first one has pushed me even harder to publish the second one and write the second one. My book is a really sad book. The topic is atrocious. Like, it's so tragic. And I actually had a girl from school, from my secondary school, reach out to me and say, Ray, I had a stillbirth. I lost the son. And he's my Peter Pan. She says he will always live on. And it gives me goosebumps every time I talk about this. But she said, it took me so long to get through the first few chapters of this book because it hit home so hard about the feelings that I've gone through and what actually happened to me. And I was so scared for her to read this book because I thought she would lash out at me, or that she would say I had no right to write about such a sensitive topic. And she said to me, you helped me overcome some things I didn't realize I needed to overcome. You helped me face some trauma that I didn't realize I still held on to. And for this girl to say that to me and to read my book, and she said, in the end, I was just enjoying it as a book. And she said, thank you so much. And she reread it as soon as she finished it. But to think that I could touch someone's life like that in such a personal way is insane. And yeah, we hadn't spoken in about 15 years. And now we speak a lot again. And I had no clue that she'd lost a child. And yeah, it's brought us back together as friends, actually. But yeah, it affirmed for me that I need to write, and I want to continue to write, and I want to take people on stories and journeys that they would never, experience.
Thanks.
So are you writing your next book?
Yeah, I'm writing my next book now, called Kelly and the Willow Tree. And this is why that first chapter of this presentation was about where you're writing from and your deep past. It's set from a lot of visuals of my own childhood, the area, the characters, things like that. But Kelly and the Willow Tree is a story about a Ugandan boy called Bashir, who moves to London as a refugee, and he falls in love with a girl called Kelly, and he's very young. And in their adolescent years, Kelly turns to him and says, Bashir, I'm in the wrong body. I think I'm supposed to be a boy. And the book is an epic going through their lives together of Kelly going from female to male, and from Bashir as a Ugandan, where in Uganda it's illegal to be gay, transforming his mindset to saying, I don't love a woman, I love a person, and what that means for his culture and his family, and what that means for hers as well. And I'm really excited to explore their lives, because I don't know what's going to happen in their lives yet. I'm very character-led, and I'll just write. And sometimes it will go down a route and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is happening. So yeah.
On that note, because that was going to be one question, is do you know the story? Do you have the beginning, the middle, the end? Do you know that when you start? And the second part of that, I guess, is what inspires you to actually choose something to write about? Because even if I wanted to write, I have no idea what I would even write about.
Yeah. I'm odd in that way that I don't plan my books. I think a lot of writers do, and I've read a lot of pieces from writers that they have spreadsheets of the plot and how it's going to develop and stuff like that. I'm very character driven, so I'll have a strong character and I'll have a situation, and then I'll let that story play out, and I won't know where that's going to go. When I was writing Golden Boy, some of the scenes in it are really graphic, and I was writing it like, oh my God, why am I putting this poor woman through this trauma? But it was just happening, as I was typing it out. It was like watching a movie in front of me. So I don't know where it's going to go until it goes there. And then I read it almost for the first time as well. And in terms of what inspires me, or what the topic that I sit on, I mean, Golden Boy came from a short story that my tutor said, this has legs. I think this could be more. I would love to read more of it. And she's actually in the acknowledgements at the beginning, although I have not spoken to her since I published, but she reaffirmed for me that I should write it. And Kelly and the Willow Tree came from a short script that I wrote about Bashir, and it was actually a 2-minute monologue, him saying that he was found by his priest in Uganda, sitting amongst the sugarcane, holding another boy's hand, and the kind of treatment he went through to beat the gay out of him that they're known for in Uganda. And I just had this visual in my head, and this story in my head, and I know that it has to be more. So yeah, it's emerged and evolved into Kelly and the Willow Tree.
So I have a question
Yeah.
about editing your book.
Yes.
How did you go about that? Like, did you find a professional editor? Like, was it helpful? How did it impact the quality of your book?
Okay, so one thing I would say on finding an editor is find one that understands your vision, and your tone of voice and your style, because so my publisher introduced me to a couple of editors, and some of them just didn't get what I was trying to do. They'd say, oh, this sentence isn't grammatically correct. And I was like, I don't want it to be grammatically correct. This is how I envision the person speaking or thinking. So this is how I'm going to write it. So don't just take the first editor that comes your way. But I would say test the editor and get a vibe to make sure that they understand your tone of voice, type of book you want to create. But you definitely need an editor, because the amount of, you're blind to it. By the time you've finished a manuscript, you are completely blind to what you have created. And they'll pick up things that you wouldn't have even considered. Like, for example, one of the lead characters in Golden Boy, I had the house number down as one number at one part of the book, and then another number at another part of the book. It was like 36 Arwinick Avenue, and then another part of the book 37. And you just wouldn't even cross your mind, to check these things, or like dates and months and seasons. You lose track of seasons as well. Yeah. So an editor is really important, just to get that other pair of fresh eyes on your work. And I would suggest you go for a professional editor. An editor can't be your friend or a family member unless it's their job.
Yeah, no, I'm asking because my manuscript was written for a very different purpose, and it requires rewriting, but obviously as a non-native speaker, even though it is in English, like it's I'm starting from a completely different place than native speakers. Like I can't at them send my manuscript to publisher without having it checked by a native speaker, because it's going to be very likely rejected just because it doesn't sound good enough. So that's why I was interested in that, because I feel like I need to find editor before even sending it to a publisher.
Yeah, I would. And I would find the editor first, get that edit of the book to what you are happy with, send it to the publisher, and then you'll probably get another editor.
Right.
Once you're accepted to a publisher, if you decide to self-publish, whatever, you will get another editor to make it publishing worthy. But you'll probably have like another level of editing to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Stop sharing my screen. Any more questions, or we're all questioned out?
It sounds like a long process.
It is.
So patience might be a virtue.
Yeah. And you could want it to, you want everything done there and then, but you get one shot at this. So just take your time with it and make sure it's as best as it can be. If you're rushing things, you're going to make mistakes. Like I was so reluctant to even announce it to my friends and family that it was available to be bought, because I just was so scared that, an older copy of the manuscript was in there, or just like dumb things that could not possibly have happened. But just yeah, take your time with it, make sure it's as best as it can be, and you'll be thankful for it.
So I actually just bought your book.
Yeah. Awesome.
After hearing you talk about it, I'm super excited to read it. Of course, it'll probably take a month for it to get here, but and then after I'm done, I'll definitely give you a review.
Yeah.
Any
Yes.
any other like tips, tricks, words of advice for anybody that's in the process of writing or has written and is ready to move into the publishing arena?
I think, well, it is all entirely worth it. You know, this process is so long and it needs to be long, but it is so worth it. As soon as you get someone messaging you saying they've read the book, or I have people calling me up saying, I want to discuss this, I need to know about this. It makes it all so worthwhile and just affirms your efforts. So anyone that is writing or is on the verge of publishing, I would say keep going at it, because when it's out there, it's fantastic. And also when it's out there, you know, that is a huge step done. Yes, there are other marathons. Yes, there's always more work to do in terms of marketing, but it's live. And I have sales steadily ticking over all the time. And it's such a sustainable way of building a career for yourself, because once you have one book out there, you get another book, and then someone reads that other book and they find your other one. So they all link to each other. And yeah, hopefully my plan is to be full-time as a writer and just keep writing. But yeah, the effort is worth it.
Amazing.
Nice. Any other questions?
Probably hundreds, but yeah, because it's very interesting. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. For me, it's very helpful to hear somebody else's journey to publishing, and it definitely sounds more achievable now, I think.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, authors were always either well-recognized professors, which I have never, that's not what I have ever aspired to be, or just, you know, famous writers like Stephen King that are really out there. So it's good to meet face-to-face someone who went through this journey and successfully published the book.
Yeah, I mean, also, there's so much support out there now. And one thing I would say, if you're going into self-publishing, is Amazon Kindle support is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I was so worried that I would just be like lost among the masses of authors or writers within Amazon, but I'm on first name basis with like 3 people from Amazon Publishing. They call me up, they ask me how my book is doing, they say, Ray, we're doing this, you know, they respond to my emails within a day most of the time. So if you do self-publish, Amazon support for publishers is really, really good. Right. And any questions you have about the technicalities of publishing on Amazon, they are there. You're not a nuisance to them. They don't link you to like a blog article to read up on. They will respond to your question, and they will call you up and make sure that everything is okay. So I take my hat off to Amazon, because they've been a fantastic support, and they are for any author.
Mm-hmm. But as far as I know, they don't do any editing. It's your responsibility to for everything that is in the book, and they basically just walk you through the process of physical publishing. Yeah,
on their system.
Right.
So if I would suggest, if you're going to self-publish, to go through Amazon, and there's always more stuff that you can do on Amazon as well, but that is where people go to buy books at the end of the day. You can figure out deals with other bookstores via Amazon as well. but it's fantastic. They take care of everything for you. You know, I haven't had to bulk buy my books. Like, I have horror stories of authors buying thousands of books at a time and them sitting in a garage waiting to be sold.
Yeah.
They do print on demand. They do all the packaging. They send it off for you. You don't have to do anything. You obviously give them a sale of your book, but for me, I think that's worth it for the amount of support that you get for it.
Right. And they publish both on paper and Kindle version, yes?
Yes. Yeah.
And
I'm just setting up Kindle now, but I need to get the interior redesigned so it's on Kindle.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So my question is, if you could now compare having your book published by a publisher or self-published, would you still, with the first book, would you go through self-publishing if you know what you know now?
Yeah, I would say go through self-publishing unless you're picked up by one of the big publishing houses. I was picked up by a small indie house, and it's just not worth it. You know, like, educate yourself on self-publishing and self-publish, or you get picked up by a huge house and you get that kind of marketing affirmation to your name. But if you're not being picked up by a huge house, go small, and you can do really, really well.
Right. This is really useful information, because you don't normally find it in guidebooks for future writers. So it's good to know. Yeah. I have actually a publisher that I've been thinking about now for years. But obviously you never know if they will decide to pick up your manuscript or not. But it's good to know that self-publishing is going that well, because I may want to do that rather than struggle with sending my manuscript for years and never have it picked up.
Yeah. And then you own more of the rights, you own more of the royalties. And as I said, like, Amazon support is incredible. So
and sorry if the question is a bit rude, but do you think that it's something that at some point will start bringing you sufficient income to switch completely to writing?
I think so, and I hope so. But I don't think it will happen until I've at least got a couple of books out.
Right.
And like I said, like, they all link to each other. So someone doesn't just buy one book, they buy three.
Right.
And I need to get onto Kindle. I need to get onto an ebook, because especially within the remote year community, everyone is all over the world, or normally is traveling all the time. So it's so important that they can get it on their Kindle or their phones or whatever they're reading it on. But you need the ebook as well. I
agree. I haven't read anything in paper for years. Like, every book that I own is on my Kindle, and I have owned thousands of them. Like, the last paper book I bought maybe 3 years ago. So so I think that it's a good move.
Yeah, and with your first book, I would say don't aim to make sales to make money. Aim to make sales to make a name for yourself.
Right.
Especially on Amazon, you can change the cost of your book all the time, or you can do sales and things like that, and just get your book out there and make names.
Cool, very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Ray, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing this information. I have posted Ray's information on how you can connect with Ray. He's also on Facebook, which I didn't link here. I don't know how often you use Facebook, but you could definitely connect with him on LinkedIn and check out his book on Amazon. And if there's any follow-up questions or anything, feel free to post them in the event on Facebook. We'll see if we can't get those answered. And if there's any way that I can help support you guys and whether that's just being an accountability partner and checking in with you and making sure that you're following through on your goals and whatnot, or if it's sharing your finished works through my social channels, happy to do that. And thanks for joining tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Awesome.
Thank you. Waiting
Thank
for
you
a
so
Kindle
much.
version.
Yeah, I will let you know. I'll let you know.
Please do. Please do.
Me too.
I'm very excited
Okay.
to hear more about this. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Lovely. Thanks so much for your
Guys.
time.
Yeah.